You've selected a show from the Podcast Jukebox, a DIY podcast network.
It's Will Shawn Podcast. The internet cried out for 2 more blowhards, and they courageously answered that call. Armed with the weapon of wit, each week they're joined by guests to discuss movies, television, pop culture, and anything else that's pissing them off. Take it away, boys.
I'm Will Link.
And I'm Sean David.
And this is Will Shawn Podcast?
Where's Stephen Brandon? Who the hell are you? What is this? I thought this was the Sean Stephen Podcast. What's going on, Will? How you doing, Will?
Say. You don't even remember
I don't
how
remember.
to talk to me. Let me tell you what. You want to know how it's going? I can't believe you son of a bitch. You went through with it, and you did an episode without me.
Listen, I was getting that 7-year itch. Sometimes you just gotta see what else is out there.
It's unprecedented.
Nah, it's fairly precedented.
You did a whole episode without me, and yeah, it was good. It was all right.
Listen, I'm starting to understand why, Van Halen switched singers halfway through.
Oh, you're replacing me with the Aussie Stephen Brandon? Is that it?
Yeah.
No, it was a good episode you guys did.
Yeah,
it was
passable.
It was weird listening to my podcast without me on it while walking the streets of London. Like, it was a little bizarre, but...
Well, this is how Paul McCartney must have felt when John Lennon started doing his own albums.
There you go. I like. Well, we are the Lennon and McCartney of podcasting. That's been proven.
So who the hell's Ringo?
Yeah, well, that's Stephen Brandon. He could be Ringo.
Alex Stein is George Harrison.
Exactly. So what's going on in the world of Will Shawn Podcast?
Well, we're back to things as usual. You know, you're back again. I want to thank everyone who is listening to us. Who has found us through the Podcast Jukebox Network. Want to remind you all to make sure you are subscribing to us on iTunes, giving us a star rating, leaving a comment, following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and I don't know, some of the friends of the pod, what have they been up to? Chris Burgock is his new movie that he co-wrote and produced with Sean Baker, The Florida Project, is coming out in theaters this week, so we're very excited for them, and we're hoping to get him back on the show soon to talk about it, and things are generally going well for all of our former guests.
And Stephen Brandon, is he in New York?
Yes, Stephen Brandon is in New York now. They are casting, and they are prepping Game of Thrones the musical. It's going to be having a 3-week run starting in October, and they have a lot of work to do between now and then, and they are hoping to possibly extend the run if they can while they're there.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't they want to stay in New York?
They would want to. It's just, will New York have them?
Maybe.
Yeah, and so if you are...
As a New Yorker, I'll put in some calls.
You got your people. And once again, if you are a New York area resident, I believe it's called the Tri-State area, please make your way down to Broadway to go see the Game of Thrones musical. It's an excellent show, and, support the arts.
And who is our sponsor this week?
The National Hockey League. No racial grievances here, because we're mostly white and Canadian.
They're not bending a knee?
Well, they're wearing all that equipment and a pad. You try bending a knee on a skate. Come on.
On a show this week, I went to London.
Yeah.
I figured we should probably talk about it. Also, Hillary Clinton wrote a book. I figure we should probably talk about it.
Did you find out what happened?
It didn't go well for her.
Oh, okay.
And in order to get to London and a place where I could read my book was a flight. And my flight was fine, but flights are getting a little crazier. Some people got some stupid ideas about what should go on flights. We will discuss it. But first, we are very excited to have with us. She is a terrific actress and a wonderful human being, Katie Featherston.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Another person I might add that we have met through a mutual friend, Megan Hayes, another terrific actress.
She is. She's a lovely human and fun and awesome and has brought lots of cool people into my life, including you guys. So
Thank you for that.
I'm worried she's going to start asking for commissions at some point.
She should.
And now that we got our required shout out to Megan Hayes out of the way,
Is this a weekly? It's like every week you got to get a shout out to Megan Hayes. You should make that a thing.
maybe that should be a new segment.
You wouldn't like to see her mad.
Katie, you've done a lot of work. I think people know you mostly from the Paranormal Activity films. But before we get into all that, we always like to get the guest's origin story.
Okay.
Where are you from originally?
I feel like a superhero right now. I feel like I should be telling you about my secret power. I'm from Texas, North Texas, the Dallas area.
Okay.
I lived there my whole life.
What part of Dallas? Like,
Well, my mom lived in Arlington, and my dad had a farm in Burleson. So
Okay.
and then I went to like SMU, which is actually in the fancy part of Dallas. So I had the whole experience.
whole Dallas experience.
Yeah, the whole DFW experience. And I grew up there, and then I moved out here right after college.
So in college, did you like study acting? Was that something you always wanted to do?
Yep, I studied acting. I got a BFA. Which meant that I could do absolutely nothing that I couldn't have done previous to getting that BFA. But it was a fantastic 4 years, and I am deeply grateful for my time there.
I also have a BFA
Yeah, right.
in directing, so and it's coming real handy.
well, one thing I've heard from friends of mine who are actors who have either BFA or MFA in acting is they say that what they get out of it is a sort of structure and technique that they can fall back on when they find themselves in situations where maybe crew or the environment isn't as conducive to what they're trying to do. They're like, okay, I know how to handle my body and my lines, and I know how to prepare. And so it gives them a framework for being an actor that they may not necessarily have gotten if they just came out here to act.
Sure. I mean, I think that's true. I think that it was 4 years of like very intense growth as an artist, as a person, as you know everything included, and so that wouldn't happen necessarily if you just like threw yourself out into a career. And the people I met, I mean, I could go on and on. I joke about it, but I really am grateful for that time. I did just like complete a training that actually qualified me to do something though that I couldn't do before the training, and I like got my certificate, and I was like, oh wow, I'm like a different person. I can go out in the world and do this thing, and I was like, oh, that's what college feels like for most people, you know?
I don't know. I have a degree in English. It wasn't.
Okay, maybe not.
It's like, great, you read your weight in books. Congratulations. Now go make money.
You're like, all right.
All right. Did you also go to school in Texas then?
Yeah,
Okay.
everything in Texas. Went to SMU for my BFA, and then came out
SMU
here.
done.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And what was like the first what was the moment you realized you wanted to act? Like what was like?
Yeah.
Was it something you saw? Was it like you were like found yourself like on
As
stage?
a tree in the Christmas pageant.
No, and my mom would say it happened earlier, like when I was real young, 4 or 5, because I would ask to be in commercials even though I was really shy. But when I remember it happening was the first day of 7th grade. I was a painfully shy kid, and but I signed up for this drama class. And I was sitting in the drama class on the first day, and the teacher said, okay, everybody, we're going to do an improv. Who wants to get up and volunteer? And I remember sitting in my chair. It was like everything got super slow motion. And I said to myself, Katie, you can sit in this chair for the rest of the year and be terrified of this class, or you can get your ass out of the chair, go up there and do it and see what happens. And I went up there, and we were doing this improv about being in an aerobics class, and I instinctively was like, I have to do something funny. I don't, and so I stood in the back, and I was half a beat off on all the stuff. And I remember she laughed, and it was like, oh, what? What? And Matt, it was like the world opened up, and I sat back down and was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be an actress. And
I have this power.
I went home and told my parents, and my mom was like, great, honey. And my dad was like, And then I never changed my mind. That was it.
You stuck to it, and
I stuck to it.
It paid off.
It did. It did.
So you moved out to Los Angeles after college.
Yes.
Had you been here before at all, or?
Once for a week to kind of check things out
Right.
and drive around when I was in high school, but not seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you knew, if I'm going to do this, I have to be in L.A., or
LA
did
or
you
New
ever
York.
think of New York?
I did
or?
before I realized that I like to have a car, and I didn't like the snow, and New York just seemed so scary to me, and LA seemed a little bit more manageable. And it's something really beautiful about being young and sure of yourself is that I didn't have any fear. I was afraid, but I didn't have any fear. I didn't have this what if it doesn't work out feeling at all.
Mm-hmm.
There was no space for it. People would say, what's your fallback plan? And I'd be like, I don't have a fallback plan. This is my plan, and it will work. And so I came out here, I think, could I do that now? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I could move to a new city and not know anyone.
Part of that's getting a little older, too.
Yeah.
And a little more realistic about life.
Yeah.
When you get older, you start to... You learn fear, and you learn the realities of life. I mean, it's funny. I agree with you with the idea of, well, if you want to do something, you shouldn't have necessarily that fallback plan.
Right.
You got to keep pushing that one thing. Of course, that could also be
Why are you
problematic.
chopping the air?
But that could also be problematic But I think that's the only way you can proceed with a goal like this.
I think so, but I think it's I think that lasts, and like in the sense that now, like I'm trying to produce my first film, and I can't have a fallback plan of like what it will be like if it doesn't happen, or what if I can, all the what ifs. It's like, no, this is happening. There is no room for this not to happen, period. And it's harder to do that now because I'm older and I have more fear and I've seen more life. But also I think that it's the same mentality kind of sticks.
So you're in LA. What was the first gig you got when you got to LA?
Oh, like a tiny role in this really horrific movie, scary movie that filmed like over a weekend, and it was so bad. I auditioned for the lead and didn't get it, but they gave me like this smaller part. Like, I had one scene I was tied to a chair, and this like bad guy comes in and almost tries to kill me or something, and I'm like the young prepared actress, and I show up and I've done like all this character work. I've done pages of work for this one scene, right? And then I get there and the lady's like, yeah, you're a prostitute and you're tied up. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. What? I'm a what? I'm a prostitute? Oh, okay, that's not in my prep work. Okay. And I was like, I'm a pro, Katie. You're a pro. You're a prostitute. Just
you're
get
a prostitute.
Just get in the zone. And so then I changed my specifics to make myself a prostitute and was in that one scene, and it's truly the worst movie that's ever been made.
We have a clip of it that we're going to play. No.
Roll the clip.
Oh, it's bad.
Okay, so...
That was the first.
That was the first thing.
First one, yeah.
Now, how long before you got Paranormal Activity then?
It was the first year. It was really early on.
But also horror.
It was, yeah. But I mean, I remember reading the audition breakdown on whatever it was, Actors Access or LA Casting, and thinking like, oh man, whoever wrote this, whoever's doing this movie is taking this seriously, because it just seemed so professional and so like, this is what's going to be required of you, this is what we're doing, don't submit unless you're ready to work hard. You know, it was obviously somebody really cared, and it seemed really kind of creative and unusual, and I was like, yeah, I'm in. Let me audition for this.
Well, it's interesting. It also you just said that they're looking for someone who's willing to work hard in there, because it's the kind of role that it's a very naturalistic role. Like, they want people who are just like
in it to win it.
Living in a house.
Yeah.
Like acting as a couple.
Very theater-esque in that sense. Very community. Like, it was very collaborative. And
it was like a micro budget. Like,
nothing.
I mean,
it was great.
And
it was so fun.
It was Gil. What's his name?
Oren Pelly.
Pelly. That's right. I was thinking someone else. Yeah. And he had been working as.
He'd been working as a video game designer or writer or something for, I think, Sony, and he was kind of bored.
And he's like a real engineer mind.
He's
like,
brilliant.
Meticulous.
He's done he's one of those people that if he decides, same like we were talking about earlier, if he decides he wants to do something, then he just does it. Yeah. Period. And so he's very, very technical, very smart in that way. And
that movie became like a phenomenon.
Huge thing, right?
Yeah. And it's hard not to compare it to the same phenomenon like the Blair Witch had, where it's this low budget but very interestingly made, like kind of fresh take on how we're going to make a horror film, found footage.
Right.
What I loved about Paranormal Activity, it's really that one shot that you keep cutting to at night, that
overlooking the bed.
Yeah. And I remember seeing that in the theater, and you know, what's great about the way the film works is it's all the stuff during the day, and as you're slowly like kind of
falling apart.
But you have these respites of the day, and then every time it cuts back to the shot, it's
you
like,
get triggered.
What the fuck is going to happen now in this one shot we keep coming
and
to?
You're watching, your eye starts wandering the frame, like, where is the awful thing going to be, you know?
And that's I think the fun thing is that, you know, there's not really a lot visually that happens in that movie, but we don't have to, because it's in your head. And that, to me, is so much scarier than anything anybody could ever show you. So I always appreciated that.
And that is always better, because the imagination, I remember I saw Blair Witch for the second time on a date. Yeah. The girl thought it was the first time I was seeing it. But we went on...
How'd that relationship go?
She knows now.
She's hearing right now. Yes, now she's like, it was all a lie. But she... I remember the people behind us were clearly people who had no imagination and lived sad lives because they kept complaining, like, you're not even seeing anything. Where is it? Because, like, in the scenes when she's running through, it's like, what the fuck is that? And these people are like, there's nothing. What are they talking about? And we were both very annoyed. And then after the movie, we found ourselves at Applebee's because of those half-price appetizers after 10 p.m.
Right.
And we were sitting there, and these people from behind us were sitting at the table next to us. So the girl who was with this girl, Jackie, she just kept loudly saying, like, you know what the best part about that movie was? That, like, it lets you use your imagination. It doesn't show you things. And it's the same thing. Like, there are a lot of low-budget horror movies made, but, you know, there's a talent in something like a Paranormal Activity that makes it work, that allows that space to let you use that imagination.
Right.
Now, when you were filming it, the experience of filming it, did you have any sense that this was going to be a thing, or was it just a job, another movie, and it'll be what it'll be?
Well, it was more than just a job. I mean, it was so collaborative that we were all kind of directing / we were improvising it, so we were kind of writing it as we went, and we were, Oren was so great about including us in every aspect of that process. So we all felt really invested, and we really wanted it to be the best movie it could be. We didn't want to cut corners and be like, well, why is she holding the camera here? I don't know, just do it. It was all very like, did that work? No, how can we make it work?
Is it motivated?
Right,
is this like the naturalness of the environment?
Yeah.
And
makes sense for why,
Yeah.
And that's another reason that movie works, because you see a lot of these found footage movies, and after Paranormal...
Why is there a camera there?
Yeah, after Paranormal, there was a big explosion.
Right.
And, halftime, it's like, no one would be filming.
Right.
And that movie...
Why is there a camera on the moon?
Yeah, and that... yeah, exactly. And that movie, at least, it felt like... Oh, there seems like there's a rationale.
Right. We tried for that, but we definitely didn't have it. I mean, we didn't.
Yeah.
How could we? We were just invested in the experience and having fun, and wanted it to be great, and did our best, and then slowly but surely.
So the movie wraps, and then how long it starts premiering it starts getting buzzed like at film festivals?
The movie wraps, and Oren spends like a good year, I think, editing, and he'd like drive up, and we'd give notes, and he'd go back, and there was a year of that kind of stuff.
He really kept you guys in on the process.
He was great.
To the bitter end.
He still does. I mean, he's been. I cannot imagine a more generous or collaborative person to work with. And, his generosity made that experience what it was, and I have deep gratitude for him. So he kept us updated in everything.
If I remember correctly, wasn't the thing with that movie, though, like, it opened, like, more limited, but it was this thing of, like, oh...
Maybe it will, maybe it won't.
Like...
Yeah, demand
There
it.
was, like, demand that your town...
And that was, like, 3 years later. So that was 3 years later from when we shot it to when that happened.
And so during that time, you're just here,
I'm just here, I'm waiting tables, I'm auditioning off of... Actors Access, and, doing all that stuff like you do.
Yeah.
And, we got into some festivals, and then, Paramount got into it, and then Steven Spielberg saw it. All these things are, like, life-changing, but we never knew if that was going to be it. And we were like, oh, man, if that's it, great, And I remember even when we were doing the demanded thing, and it was in, like, college towns, we didn't know if it was ever going to be released, and I was still waiting tables, and then, like, I got the phone call, like, hey, it's going to be... released nationwide. And I was like, cool, I'm going to put my 2 weeks in. And I put my 2 weeks in, and I was like waiting tables, and people were seeing the movie and then coming to my restaurant after the movie and being like, hey, wait, you the girl from, oh my God, are you the girl from that movie? And I'm like, yeah, I have 2 weeks left, And so I'd serve them pasta, and then my 2 weeks were up, and I never went back.
That's great.
So then did you travel with the movie, like, once it just blew up?
We did a lot of press in the beginning, which was terrifying because I had been here for a couple of years, but I certainly wasn't in the industry. Right. I was, I had no one. And so there was not a lot of room to learn. It was just all of a sudden, there we are on Jay Leno, there we are on the radio, there we are doing all these TV stuff. And it was a lot. It was fun, but it was also a lot. And I think we learned pretty fast. But in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I wish I had like maybe a year of occasional press to like prep me for what that sort of experience
But it's also the kind of thing that you'll never know until you're in it.
Oh,
there's nothing
to do
can
it.
prepare you for it.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's like maybe it's better like I'm totally ignorant to this. Just throw me in.
Right.
And let me
Put me in coach.
Yeah.
It's Rudy.
I will say that it was great to have Mika there. Mika, the guy who's in the movie with me, he's one of my dear friends, and it was really nice to have him there. We are bonded in a way that no one will ever be able to
You
get
had to deal with
to.
that ghost.
Yeah, there's that. Still paying him back for that. No, it was nice to have him there because we were able to like really support each other through that craziness.
Were you a fan of horror movies before this?
Yeah, I loved as a kid. I loved scary movies, and I always wanted. It's funny because I always wanted a movie that would scare me even after I went home, even after the movie was over. I always loved haunted houses. My favorite scary movie was probably Candyman.
Okay.
If y'all remember that, Tony Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the less tolerance I have for them because I think like the actual world scares me more, and I'm like, I don't have enough space in my heart for this, And I still do enjoy scary movies or like creepy things, but not like I did when I was a kid when I was just like super excited about it.
So then how long after this did the sequel machine start cranking into gear? And
Now, how many of them have they made?
They've made
now.
5 and a spinoff, so 6, I guess.
Okay.
Including ours. I think it was pretty. I can't really remember. I think it was pretty soon. I mean, because when Steven Spielberg saw it, his suggestion was don't kill her because I was supposed to die in the first one. He was like, "Don't kill. She's the demon now. Don't kill her." And somebody was, and one of us, Oren or somebody was like, wonder if that's interesting. And then
If Spielberg says,
yeah,
this is
Stevie.
don't kill,
don't kill her.
Then
We
it's
might
like-
need her. I'm like, for what? But we didn't.
Jaws 3.
We didn't. Yeah, please, Steven, call me. But we didn't know until I guess after the movie made some money, and then somebody made a phone call. Or
I feel like the sequel came out like a year later, though.
It was.
Like,
we
like,
started
really,
shooting right away.
Then because I felt like I was back in that same theater a year later watching.
I think it did. I'm sure, I know they all came out in October for the most part.
Right.
Now,
For a while, it was like Paranormal Activity and Saw,
were
and that was
competing
just
it out,
like,
and then we scooted them out. But they're doing great stuff now. They're doing stuff.
They're like rebooting Saw. I think it's time to reboot
they're
Paranormal
that?
Activity.
Man, it just ended.
Yeah.
Like a year ago.
That's enough.
We need some more time.
Also, we need a new Spider-Man.
How many Spider-Mans?
now we need more Spider-Men and more Paranormal
Oh my gosh,
Activities.
let's do a crossover. Can we?
Where you go up against Spider-Man.
Yeah, but I want my character to be redeemed, y'all. There's still a lost girl in that demon and possessed body.
What if we tie her to a chair?
Oh gosh, guys! If y'all could see that terrible movie I was in,
We're gonna do an IMDb deep dive afterwards.
it's not. I think I took it off. I think that's how bad it was.
Now, when you show up for the sequel, all this stuff's happening quickly. Now it's bigger budget, I assume, more
Yes.
people.
Yeah, then
just
it's a
studio
big
film.
Paramount studio film, but they're trying to do it like an indie film. So it was this like weird kind of in between where they were kind of trying to get their feet sturdy, and we were trying to figure out what and then it was a transition, but it was a great one. You know, the family got bigger, and we had a lot of the same crew people and everything for all the sequels, which was really cool.
I only saw the first. I saw the second one. I remember the second one. I loved as well. Also scared the shit out
Yeah,
of
the
me.
second one was because I went into the second one
Worried about a
skeptical,
book
because
of Lost Shadow situation.
But
Right.
as you would be after you see this movie that's a phenomenon, and then I remember the second one. I remember having a lot of moments that I really jumped in the
Right.
second one.
Yeah, it was fun. It was intense and crazy, and it was it was like, oh, I'm not really producing this movie or directing or writing or anything. I'm an actor, and so there was like a transition, which was totally appropriate. But for me to go, oh, this isn't my like little baby anymore
Right.
Yeah.
that I made with these few other people. Like this is something I'm now hired to participate in, and there's some freedom in that, and that I could really play without the pressure of like trying to make a movie.
Horror movie fans are like obsessive fans.
They are very devoted.
And so do you get like approached a lot, or do you get like contacted a lot by like horror movie? Like do you go to like conventions and stuff?
You know what? I never have, and I recently did a little mini signing for a Harvey hurricane. I'm from Texas, so the Harvey thing was important to me, and so there was like a relief thing, and I did a signing there, and it was really fun. I always find that our fans are really kind, lovely people, and like so excited, and there's nothing but happiness in my heart to meet somebody who's like who really appreciates this thing that I loved that I participated in. So I've never done them in the past, but I would like to do.
I think you should do them.
one or two a year or something maybe.
Yeah.
I do have some. I would say 95% of my fans are awesome, and then 5% are love me a little too much. But even then, I love them too, just from afar.
That's like our fans, Will.
I long for the
sweet touch of an obsessive fan.
Yes, who love me too much. Like, this is what I want. I would God willing, like, I can get my book published. I would attend the opening of a door. You know, I would be everywhere. That they're like, Will, we need you. Say no more. I'll be there. You know, I would do everything. So after the Paranormal Activity,
right?
Did you find, though, because also with genre films and stuff, sometimes people find they like get typecast in that. Did you find that? Was there like something you had to?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly in the first few, at least the first sequel, we started shooting right away, and there was a lot of kind of like round robin shooting where we would shoot and then we'd be off, but we were still kind of on hold.
Right.
So in that very first year, I wasn't really available to do other things, and so that kind of tapered off as the movies went. And I like made a sketch a couple of years ago about auditioning for something, and then the casting director thinking that the movie was real and talking to me like I was formerly possessed, and there is a little bit of truth in that. In that, because we used our real names in the movie, it really gives people, creative people and fans alike, they kind of just slip into this idea that I was just me. And a lot of people are like, oh, you and Mika, you're dating, right? And I'm like, no, we've never dated. That was pretend,
Well, that's, again, like, it's a very lived-in, naturalistic performance. Like, you live.
And I remember watching when I saw the movie originally, that's what impressed me the most, and I was a little confused. Like, I understood it was a film and that you were acting, but I vividly remember thinking, like, this is really, like, feels really, really real. Like, I believe these two people, and I'm not so sure that, maybe they were a couple that are making this movie with this. Yeah. Just because you didn't know too much about it, and the press was still, wasn't hip to what was going on there, but, yeah. So,
I want to talk about, though, some other projects you might have done afterwards. Like, so what was the
path?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been an interesting path. I think there was a lot of growing on my end in the sense that I was immediately thrust into some of the not A-list levels of Hollywood, but in rooms that people would spend a decade trying to get in, and all of a sudden I was there, but I didn't have any idea what I was doing. Okay. And I also didn't have anyone around me who was guiding me through it. So I was very on my own. And that was really like a tough thing to go through. And I say that not from a place of complaining, but from a place of like just kind of looking back and going, oh, look at all that amazing abundance and all that good stuff. But also look at the part that was kind of like a little stressful. Yeah. And so I did, I did The River. I was offered that. I didn't, they just gave it to me. It was great. I went to Hawaii for a few weeks and did a handful of episodes on the TV show and whatnot. And then at some point I took a break. I just started auditioning again recently, and I left my team. I was like, I love y'all are great, but we got to part ways. They felt they were fine with it. And I took a couple of years off, and I started making my own things because I really didn't. I wanted to make sure I was acting and creating because I wanted to, not because I had decided something when I was in the 7th grade and didn't know how to not do something else.
You'd gotten some level of success. You had a little,
right.
You go, okay, now I'm in this place where I can take a step back and reassess this from a more experienced vantage point.
Yeah, and from a place as like now I feel confident to be a businesswoman in this industry versus just being an artist.
Right.
And there's a difference. You have to be able to do both.
Well, what are some of the things you then were making yourself?
I made a short film called Becoming, which was in a handful of festivals, I think last year. I did a web series called Solace for the Unloved.
And this is something you directed this?
Yeah, so the short film I co-directed, produced and was in. The web series I directed by myself and was in and helped produce.
What was the plot of the web series? What was the plot of Solace
for the Unloved? The web series was it was 20 episodes, little vignettes of this woman who is kind of single and her life's kind of falling apart, but she's trying desperately to keep it all together. And it kind of pokes fun at sort of, I think, some of the things that women go through, especially in their early 30s, that not everyone talks about,
Like dating a billy goat. Sorry.
That was an off-air conversation.
That was a previous, sorry guys, you're not going to know what that joke's about. Yeah. It's disturbing. But for instance, going to your high school sweetheart's wedding, and have, being single and like pretending you're pregnant because you're, like just things that are like, I did go to my high school sweetheart's wedding. I did not pretend like I was pregnant, but in the episode, some of them are from my life, some of them are from the writer's life, and some of them we just kind of made up. But it's just different things. It's like, pointing out the kind of the darker side of being a woman that kind of is not quite so shiny and bright. But we did it in a really shiny and bright way, so hopefully it was funny.
And that was through the character sort of putting a spin on some of the darker things about life.
Like wondering if she's going to have to marry her dog, because he's the only man in her life. Like, silly stuff, but also with a, like, very rooted in honesty. So
does she
fun.
Marry her dog?
Not in that episode, but wait for season 2, guys. It could happen.
Where can we see this show? Where is it?
So both of them, the short film and the web series, are both on my YouTube page, which you can find by going to my website, which is katiefeatherston.com. And
that's easy enough.
Yeah, and then you click the little YouTube button, and then there you go.
And you said you're developing a film now? You're working on something now? Is this something you can talk about a little bit? Or
I can. It's actually the very first thing that I when I kind of had this, like, come to Jesus moment, I realized there was this story that I wanted to tell and this specific kind of character I wanted to play, and I went to a dear friend of mine named David DeGrow Shotwell, and he's a writer, and I was like, Dave, let me hire you. I want you to write this movie. And I knew in my heart that if he said no, I would just wear him down, and I would just wait until he said yes, but thankfully he did. And he's the gentleman who I did the short film with, so since then we've made other things together, but so this is, has been, we're years into the process now, and it's kind of exciting because we're at this place where it's kind of like now or never. We have lots of different pieces together, and then we're still missing some pieces, and it's exciting because I don't know what will happen, but I know there's no space for the movie not to happen, so it's like, great, we're going to be doing this pretty soon. Yeah. And it's like an indie dramedy set in Austin.
Well, it sounds like you're on a creative upswing with everything you're doing, so I'm sure it'll all come together. I
think it will.
There's no fallback plan.
Well, right. Yeah. It's just this or, the abyss of darkness. So,
which will be the name of your next web series.
Oh, God, I hope not.
So, listen, if you are a good listener of the podcast, you've already watched Katie's web series because you've been to her website, because we have a link to it on our Facebook page.
That's great.
So Katie, have you ever been to London?
Yes, once.
What was it? What was the reasoning?
I was doing press for one of the movies, I think the fourth one, and I was there for a total of maybe 36 hours.
Okay.
So I did not see very much, but I did stay in a really fancy place, which was exciting.
I had the exact opposite. I saw everything and stayed in a shitty place.
Okay, great. So us together make the...
We're like the ideal London experience.
I'm the neutral. Hold on. You didn't ask me if I've been to London.
I know you've been to London.
Okay.
The listeners know.
Oh. Do they know?
Yeah, they do.
Do
Okay.
they, though? Have
you been to London, Sean?
Yes, I've been to London.
Okay.
I've seen London. I've seen France.
So, apologies that you're coming on for such a self-serving topic, but I have to talk about London because I went there, and it was good.
Yeah?
I had a good time.
Did you?
I'd never traveled internationally before.
Okay.
I'd never been to another country besides Canada, and that don't count. Canada don't count. Canada is basically America.
It's like nice America.
It's like friendly America.
Timmy Horton.
Yeah. Do you do a lot? Have you gone to, like, other than 36-hour periods? So, like, have you gone vacation to a lot of places around the world?
Well, some. I went to Italy for 10 days and stayed in the Amalfi Coast. It was amazing. And I'm going to Peru in a few months, so I'm excited about that.
Okay.
And that's kind of the extent of my, outside of America travel.
I feel like you should ask me some questions about the trip, rather than me just launching.
What was your favorite thing about London?
Oh, well, that's a good question.
Yeah, well, I will only ask the hard-hitting ones here on the Will Shot podcast.
Well, the thing is, like, I guess there's favorite thing I did, and then there's, like, favorite touristy thing I did. I guess as far as touristy things go, My favorite thing was the Churchill War Rooms, which I thought were incredible. It's all like the bunkers that like they were basically running the war out of. Mm-hmm. And
they're deep underground, right?
They're deep underground. Have you not been to this?
I haven't been to the I'm familiar with them, but I haven't been there.
You would like this.
Yeah.
It's very... basically, when World War II ended, they're like, oh, it's over. They just turned off the lights, and they left these rooms there. And they're basically, like, all the maps that they use, everything's there preserved. But there's also this really extensive Churchill museum. And, like, I know about Churchill, but there are a lot of things I didn't know about Churchill.
Yeah.
And...
You've seen season 1 of The Crown.
You go in there, and it's really awe-inspiring, because that's the thing about London that I guess I wasn't kind of prepared for. As
Fucking
Americans, we understand, like, World War II. Like, it happened, and a lot of Americans died in Pearl Harbor and everything.
And Saving Private Ryan.
But they experienced World War II. Like, everywhere you go, it's like, oh, there's a hole in the side of this building. Well, we left it like this after World War II as a reminder. Or wow. I went on, like, the Jack the Ripper tour,
ooh,
which was great. But the guy we'd walk to us and he's like, and here stood this building. Unfortunately, during World War II, it got bombed, and now we have this more modern building here now.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, oh,
now it's a Tesco.
But they're like literally referencing. And at the Churchill War Rooms, I felt like it would be if you're British, it'd be impossible not to have an overwhelming sense of like pride about being British going into this museum. And then I was trying to think of like, what do we have in America that makes us feel proud? Right now, nothing.
No, we do. We have it's kind of how I felt when I was in Philadelphia and Boston. You go to the Revolutionary War sites, or you go to Lexington and Concord. You get a little sense of that here, of like, oh, this is where, that's sort of like the pride of America. Civil War sites don't have pride. It's more like,
because half of us were assholes.
I just listen to the Hamilton soundtrack and then feel proud to be an American.
But you know what? That's actually a good... You know what? It's funny, but that's... I haven't seen Hamilton. Mm-hmm. I'm in the lottery. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow I'll win.
I hope.
You didn't ask me if I've seen Hamilton.
Have you seen Hamilton?
I was talking with a friend of mine recently, and she casually dropped in the conversation that, when I saw Hamilton, I go, oh, is that the new When I Was at Harvard? Where if you've seen it, you have to just, massage that into something. Yeah.
I bought the soundtrack the day after the November 7th, and I was like, I've got to do something. I've got to do something that feels good about this country, and I went out and bought the soundtrack.
But that's actually a great example of something, because it's about our history, and it is something you could feel pride in.
This past July 4th, I realized, I'm a big history person. I read a lot, and I realized I don't know as much as I should about the Founding Fathers and the Revolutionary War. So I've been on this kick of reading biographies and
so cool.
Revolutionary War, histories and stuff. And I'm actually now reading the Alexander Hamilton biography, which is like what everyone buys after they see the show, but no one ever reads. Mm-hmm. Same reason every house has a copy of Les Mis on their bookshelf that no one's ever cracked open.
Yeah.
They go, oh, I love the musical. And then they realize, oh, this is really big.
Speaking of theater, though, I saw an amazing play.
It's like 3.5 hours long, isn't it?
It is 3.5 hours long.
Hamilton or the play?
No, the play I saw.
Oh, what was it?
It's called The Ferryman. It's a brand new play written by this Irish playwright. I knew very little about it going in, except I knew it was new. It was critically acclaimed. Sam Mendes directed it, and Paddy Considine is the star of it. And
you kept tweeting
you're
about
getting
this.
in on the ground floor, basically.
Yeah, and I'm like...
He's a ferryman hipster.
Well, now if this play ever comes to America, which I'm sure at some point there'll be a production of it somewhere, because it's too big a hit.
I'll see when they do it at Grant.
But I'm going to be the asshole who's like, well, I saw the original production
with the original cast.
With the original cast. And it blew me away. I knew very little about it going in. It takes place in the 80s, and it's about the IRA. And it's about, like, this family affected about the choice of, like, where they're going to stand with the IRA. Mm-hmm. And it was and I also didn't realize it was 3. I thought it was 2.5 hours, and then I'm like, oh, this is.
I was reading a review about it. I'm like, oh, geez.
But it was really impressive. Both me and my buddy Bob, it emotionally drained us, but in like the best way possible. Yeah. It was like we didn't talk until we got to like the bar afterwards.
Now, does it make you want to see more live just theater here that isn't a musical, that isn't to just go see plays?
It occurred to me that anytime I've seen, like, a play, save, like, my friends in this local production of some brand new thing that's terrible.
Right.
Save
That's what it's
that.
called.
Yeah. Save that. Every time I see, like, a big production of a play, it's a play I'm familiar with.
Oh.
Like, I've seen, like, Glengarry Glen Ross on Broadway, but guess what? I'd seen the movie. Elephant Man, same thing. I know that story. Driving Miss Daisy, I saw a production of that with James Earl Jones, but I'd seen the movie.
Right.
Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, I know that story, you know. This was one of the rare times that I saw a big production of something that was not like a revival.
Right.
That wasn't something I was already familiar with. So that was exciting, and I would be willing to go to more stuff like that, but I mean, are we getting a lot of
Yeah,
that
we got
out
Mark
here?
Taper Forum. There's stuff out here. There's stuff at the Geffen, the Kirk Douglas. There's
Oh, you know, I did once see a Neil LaBute play that I wasn't familiar with called
Yeah.
Fat Pig
Yeah.
at the Geffen.
That's getting a revival now in New York.
Is it really?
I saw Dear Evan Hansen in New York recently.
that?
It was
Oh, dear,
it
it's
was
great.
it was fantastic, and Ben Splatt, who plays the lead guy, like he sounded phenomenal, but I could tell like on his high notes there's a lot of air in them, and I was
Yeah.
like, interesting, like he's been working hard.
Yeah.
And then intermission happens, and at the end of intermission, they're like, due to illness, the role of Evan Hansen will now be played by, and then the stand-in came in and did the second half of the show. And as like an audience member, I was of course bummed that Ben Splatt was gone, but I was also like so amazed that they're such a well-oiled machine,
Yeah.
and they're so
They
talented
could
and
just
so
come on.
good that they
Yeah.
could just do it. And he was fantastic.
Yeah.
So it was really cool.
The thing about the Ferryman, I also didn't expect. The cast is huge, and there are a lot of children in the cast. Like, and I didn't expect that. I guess. Like, and
You
also-
get that at the opera a lot because they have a lot of children's courses. You know, like, where are your parents? Why aren't you
Yeah.
in school? It's 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. What is going on?
But let me tell you what. Now I got the bug. I want to travel everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, it was great. I had a great time. The people were good. Good. I mean, I was thrown sometimes by the accent.
Yeah.
I was thrown sometimes by the slang. Like, the first time a girl came up to me at like a restaurant and was like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "What?" Like, it was like aggressive and weird, but it wasn't meant to be. Like, it was like I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah."
So nobody commented on your accent the whole time you were there.
Okay, here's the thing, Katie. My voice.
Right.
I mean, I have a distinct
You do.
voice.
Yeah.
Not one British person commented on my voice. And then when I brought it up to a British person, they said, "Well, you sound like every other American." Which is not true. It's not true. You and I don't sound anything alike.
I don't think so.
No.
Oh.
And I don't think all British people sound alike.
No, they have different accents depending on, like, you know, where they're from.
So how is it that I guess nobody thought though mine was unique?
Maybe they just thought you sounded like a New Yorker. They may get more New Yorkers there because
That's
it's closer.
true.
So maybe if I showed up with my cool neutral California accent, they'd be like, "Whoa,
Or
where are you
maybe-
from, you wandering stranger?"
Maybe they just don't have the ear for it. Maybe
Yeah.
they're not spending a lot of time thinking about what the different areas of America sound like.
But they see it on a lot of the media. I would
They've
imagine.
watched The Sopranos.
All right.
So maybe they think you were in the mafia.
Maybe that's why they didn't want to say anything about my voice.
One of my favorite things that you tweeted was your experience at the Sherlock Holmes Museum, which I've
Okay.
been to, where they treat him as if he was a living, breathing historical figure.
So we're going to the Sherlock Holmes Museum. First of all, I'm not like a big Sherlock Holmes guy, but my buddy Bob, who I was traveling with for part of the trip, this is so stupid. He said, "Well, I really want to go to Baker Street," and I go, "Oh, well, what's Baker Street?" Sherlock Holmes.
where he lives.
So we'll go to the Sherlock Holmes
221B.
Museum. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we go there, I get the tickets, and the only time we had to wait on a line anywhere this whole trip, because I always bought the tickets in advance, or we'd get the things right when they're open.
A lot of elementary fans out there.
I don't-
Benedict Cumber, whatever his last name
I
is.
don't know if this is racist to say. That's always a good way to start.
I
a
know
present.
that's how you have to start the sentence. It's obviously going to be good news.
Yeah.
But it was like us in like a sea of Asian people.
Yeah.
So was Sherlock Holmes big in Asia? I don't know.
I'm not
Maybe.
familiar.
Yeah.
But we're waiting on this line, and we're waiting a while.
Yeah.
And then Bob goes, "Why are we here?" And I go, "You said you want to go to Baker Street." He goes, "Yeah, I want to go to the street." I said, "But don't you want to go to Baker Street because of Sherlock Holmes? Like, don't you want to go to the street?" And he goes, No, I just like the Jerry Rafferty song, Baker Street." I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, I just want to see the street. And I'm like, well, now we're going to Sherlock Holmes Museum. And then it was hysterical because we're in there, and yeah, they're like, and here's the Stradivarius that he, and I'm like,
That's so
Bob
funny.
keeps whispering to me, he wasn't real.
What would be the equivalent here? It'd be like visiting like Huck Finn's house. Like this is the the fence that Tom Sawyer painted.
I would like to go to a Harry Potter museum where they talk about everybody like they're real.
Well, they have the display at King's Cross Station and the platform. They have a sculpture right in the wall there where it
really?
looks like a kid is going half through the wall
That's
with
amazing.
they've turned it into like a real thing.
I didn't go out of my way to see that sculpture.
You didn't do that?
I wasn't a big enough fan. I did go well out of my way, though, to see the Amy Winehouse statue.
Does she have a statue?
She has a statue in Camden.
Okay.
And I really liked Camden a lot. There's a whole market there. It was a lot. Honestly, that was
Wow,
one of my
cool.
favorite areas. It was like being in the village.
Was it confusing how there were so many place names that were identical to ones that were in, New Jersey and New York, but the ones here are very different?
It threw me a little bit. I'm like, Camden.
And what was going on with the zoo where the animals just run wild?
Yeah, so I went to the zoo because I like zoos. And they here's the monkey section. You go in, and the monkeys are just jumping over your head.
Yeah.
And running around.
That's
It's
the way to do
like,
it.
what is happening? And this guy was getting really close to the monkey to take a picture, and the zookeeper's like, don't get too close. He's like, monkeys will steal your cell phone. And he's like, oh.
That monkey will
Whoa.
jailbreak that iPhone and sell it on the monkey black
Whoa.
market.
And the same thing with the lemur section.
Wait, what's
They're-
a lemur?
They're like, they're like from Madagascar.
Oh,
They're,
yeah.
They got the little
Yep.
dark
They're
eyes.
Yep.
monkey-esque,
Okay.
but they're
I'm with
not.
you.
They're more a
Yeah.
little more rodent-y.
If you just relate it to a Pixar or Disney movie, I'm
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I
There
got
you
it.
go. So, but look, it was a great experience.
Yeah.
Most of the people I did meet and end up talking to were not British, but they weren't like I'm like, we're in the bar, we're talking to some girl from Brazil, it's like, but she goes to Cambridge, or like I'm talking to the girl at the coffee shop and she's Eastern European. The only real Brits I felt I talked to were the drunken bankers at the karaoke bar, who there were a lot of bankers, and one of them I had convinced I can get him a job, and because of that he bought me a whiskey. So I didn't tell him the truth of I can't get him a job, but now I have to tell my boss, like, hey, can you hire this guy?
This British guy without a work permit,
Yeah.
he just needs to Brexit the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Did you go on the Basic Instinct 2 tour of
No, I
London?
did not. I did not do that.
That would be.
But look, I went to British Museum, went to Tower London,
Yeah.
took the Jack the Ripper tour, went to the Tower Bridge where you could walk across where there's like glass and it's freaky.
What was your favorite, most unexpected moment? That's right.
What was my own? I mean, I didn't expect
Anything?
a lot of things.
You didn't run into like Adele at a bar or something?
No, I saw Andy Serkis,
Oh,
you go.
really?
like just in Leicester Square, just like
Just like
I think he
walking around
was
like a
walking
monkey?
to a movie premiere because there was a movie premiere, but he was just walking around.
There you go.
We got approached by a prostitute. That was unexpected. We were walking home from the bar. It was like midnight.
Hello, Governor.
Oh well, no, she
Fancy
was
a shag?
She was an Asian woman. And we were
We should
walking
just go to the
through-
Sherlock Holmes house.
Sherlock Holmes.
We were walking through Chinatown,
Continue.
and we were walking through to get to the tube. And this woman like steps out of the alleyway, and she goes to me and Bob. She goes, "Would you guys like a Thai massage?" And we were like, "No," and we walked away. And then
If you watch Harlots on Hulu, you would have known what to do.
I think I did the right thing.
I feel like you handled it fairly well.
I ended up in a lot of unexpected places. Like, I didn't expect, like, to be at a stand-up comedy show, but I, like, was kind of letting the days take me where they
Right.
took me, and, things like that. Ate a lot of good food. They say the food's no good. The food was great. I loved everything I ate. Ate big Sunday roast. That's a big thing. You go out for a Sunday roast.
How were the fish and
Wow.
chips?
Fish and chips were good. The best fish and chips I had, though, and I had it twice,
Yeah.
but the better fish and chips were from, like, the little weird stand outside the Tower of London,
Yeah.
was up at the Shard.
Yeah.
Great view of the whole city. There's a bar up there. But even from the urinal, there's it's just a big window, and you see the whole city while you're peeing.
Well,
It's a nice view.
Yeah, I can only pee if I'm looking out over a city, like Robert Moses.
Anyway, it was great. Katie, you should go to London.
I would love to go back and experience it.
Go
the way
stay
you
in that
did.
fancy hotel you were in.
Yeah.
I was in the worst hotel in Kensington.
Was it to have the worst toilet in
No, here's the thing about the hotel. First of all, it was very cheap, which is why I was able to stay there 9 nights at a reasonable rate. But here's the thing. It was the smallest room in the world. But the bed was comfortable. The shower was good. It was a 2-minute walk from the tube. And
You don't really need much else.
yeah, and I mean, I was out of that room by 8:30 every morning, and I wasn't back till after midnight every night, so it's not like I was in there much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Moving on.
moving on. Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, loser.
Katie, what happened?
What happened? Well,
So Hillary Clinton has a new book out
'Twas beauty that killed the beast.
that I brought on my trip.
Yes.
And I was sitting in a coffee
Because
shop.
when you travel, it's good to go with a heavy hard.
Yeah, I know. It was a giant hardcover
Yeah.
I'm bringing you with me to Hawaii in a week, so
Okay.
good beach read.
But part of me, when this book came out, it was still the wounds were too fresh.
yeah.
I wasn't sure if reading this book was going to be cathartic or just upsetting. And
Right.
I feel it's cathartic.
Okay.
Have you started it yet?
No, I have not. I feel the same. I feel like I'm too engrossed in what's happening every single day, and I'm spending too much energy trying to maintain sanity through that I can't. I don't have time to mourn, and I feel like it would be too much for me right now. I just want to have it near, so when I'm ready, it's there. But I feel like it would be like looking at pictures of an ex that dumped me a week ago. I'm not ready.
Right, to show up pregnant at his wedding.
Right.
Yeah.
Sean, do you plan on reading this book?
No, I tend not to read political books. I don't read a lot of memoirs.
I love memoirs.
I can't get past the creation of the fictional self that goes on. The game of a memoir for me is always, I'll read a historical memoir of someone who's been dead 200 years, but I don't read a lot of current memoirs because so much of it is spin and point of view and there's too many other things.
It's funny, if she had won and then released a book sometime during her presidency, I probably wouldn't have bought it. I haven't read her other books, but I was a big supporter of hers because for similar reasons that you're saying.
You're selling me something.
But this...
Well, that being said, I will read Barack Obama's memoir when that gets published.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
But this felt different to me,
Yeah.
this What Happened book, because I think because I'm at such a loss of how the hell we're in the situation, it's I had to have the person who lost kind of tell me their thought on it. And it's actually very interesting seeing how she's dealt with the pain of this loss.
White wine and yoga.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And I also think it's a little more direct and honest.
That maybe she would have been,
Exactly.
But do you feel like there's some of and this always comes out, if only Al Gore had been like that, if only John Kerry was there. When you read it, do you feel like, if only we saw this Hillary Clinton? I've listened to a lot of interviews with her, and it's been very interesting hearing her talk about it, where I'm like, okay, I don't need to read the book.
Well, here's the thing. I always really liked Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of those people who were she's not dynamic enough. She was always good enough for me.
Yeah.
So
Hillary Clinton, good enough for me.
It's not being dynamic. She's not the best public speaker. She doesn't suck you in like Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, but she's worked her ass off, and it's that's not only good enough for me.
Yeah.
That is, whether I agree with every single thing about her positions or not, her lifetime of work to me gives her. She's just
Katie, but her emails.
but all their I can't
Someone
even
was
I
saying-
can't even
someone
I'm melting in my
I
seat right now.
You get sweating
Just-
as I said it.
I can't
agree.
remember who said it, but somebody on Twitter tweeted that the book should have been called "But My Emails," and that would have been.
Oh my gosh! I wish, with my hardest of hearts, that had.
But look, I've always been a big fan of hers.
I have deep respect for her.
Yeah.
And yeah, she was easily the most qualified person.
Duh.
Since John Quincy Adams.
So now here's my question for you.
Uh-huh.
All of a sudden, and this drove me insane. I want to know how you felt about it.
Okay.
So this book's coming out, and all of a sudden, all these people, and a lot of people on the left, too, a lot of Bernie bros.
What you're gonna say?
We're like, well, she shouldn't be doing. She shouldn't have written
She needs
this
to
book.
go away.
Yeah,
It's time
she
for her
just
to be
needs
quiet.
go.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Sanders, who also lost, by the way,
Right.
was on a book tour,
Right.
and literally everyone who ever wins or loses an election ends up putting a book out. I don't know why they were. Well, I know why, but why do you think they wanted her to go away?
I think that it's much easier for them to write her off because that is the tone of what it is. Like we're gonna drown her for her emails. We're gonna say her voice is too caustic. We're gonna say we're gonna cut her off at the knees at every single chance. And I think it's because she's a really tough, kick-ass woman. And in the same way that Barack Obama made some people uncomfortable, I think she makes some people uncomfortable. And even on the left, the people who are like, she needs to go away. It's like, why? She doesn't ever have to. She can. If you don't want to read the book, don't read it.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Please.
And this is not what I believe, but could some of that also be motivated by, like, well, you were saying, we can't deal with this, like, don't go away because it's still raw for us and we haven't fully processed it and we're still living in this nightmare and we don't want you with this book now reminding us and, we can't deal with this right now.
I go back to the don't read it then.
Yeah.
But she went
But, like,
through
the fact that she published it now and she's back onto the air. And
that would hold a lot more water for me if these same people weren't excited about, like, oh, Bernie Sanders is on a book tour.
Well, I mean, there's a new season of Current Enthusiasm coming out. It's his contract.
Yeah. So that's my one issue. Because part of me does get that. Because this is a uniquely terrible situation.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like it would have been upsetting if, like, Mitt Romney had beaten Obama.
Right.
But Mitt Romney isn't a lunatic.
Isn't gonna, unfold the fabric of our world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mitt Romney wouldn't have been yelling about the NFL while people in Puerto Rico are drowning.
gosh. He wouldn't be inciting violence with tweets.
Yeah, he wouldn't endorse Nazis.
I cannot. There's literally he has one job, and it's to say Nazis suck, and he couldn't do it. What?
But now he has 280 characters to deal with.
Oh my
But
gosh.
that's the only place where then your devil's advocate argument holds water, is because people are so shell-shocked by what's happening. I'm a huge fan of hers, and I never thought she shouldn't write the book. I'm very glad she wrote the book. But I almost, like I said, was like, can I read this thing? Is it going to be too hard to read this thing because of that?
I just think in the day we're in right now, that everyone who has a strong voice should use it in whatever way they feel is right. And if you don't want to hear it, don't listen. But to say anyone needs to go away is maddening to me.
That's a great point too, and it's a point that friend of the podcast, good friend of mine, TV's Nick Wexler said. And he knows he's not like this big name actor, but some people know him, and that's why on Twitter he's been ultra political lately, because that anyone who has just a little bit of a voice,
you got that blue check mark.
Yeah, he's like, they have to be speaking their mind now.
Oh, yeah.
It's like if they feel strongly about something, they can't keep it inside, which then results in him in the middle of the night tweeting directly at Trump supporters, calling them dumb cunts.
I haven't gone that far, but
Sure, his management loves it.
I sometimes think about the days when Twitter was just for jokes and self-promotion.
Yeah.
And I'm just, now it's like, save healthcare, just stand up for the whoever.
Yeah.
All my whole Twitter is just, it's like one joke, and then 12 deeply painful political
Well, let me
tweets.
ask you also, about, you don't have to get too much into it, but coming from Texas, do you find that your Facebook is just nothing but a trigger farm?
I slowly years ago started weaning my Twitter, my Facebook friends off. So Facebook is not a thing. Twitter, is different because I don't have any. It's mostly fans.
Okay.
But I will say that coming from Texas, I have very close family members who not only voted for Trump, but when I brought it up and things that really hurt me about that, double down and
Are they still?
We don't talk about it anymore, but I haven't heard anything. No one's come to me and said, you know what, that whole grabbing you by the pussy thing, that, maybe in hindsight, no, I haven't heard anything.
You don't have to be from Texas to have family that's like that.
Right, and it is pain. It's really maybe one of the, and I think this is a testament to how great my family is, but really one of the most painful things I've ever experienced with the friends and family who went that way.
You said the thing about Twitter about how it used to just be jokes and stuff, and there was a tweet I saw. I don't remember who tweeted it, but I saw it today where someone's like, 7 years ago, I joined Twitter to follow One Direction, and now I'm a communist. And it's like, yeah, that's like,
Yep.
it's like,
Yep.
okay, well, I'm in the middle of reading the book. You're gonna start reading the book.
And I'll have you tell me what happens at the end. I'm assuming it's a Murder on the Orient Express type situation.
You never know.
Yeah.
I think it was Professor Plum in the dining room with the wrench.
Well, if only she had visited the kitchen a few extra times, maybe we wouldn't be in this mess.
Gosh, Hillary.
I wonder if Trump will read. I mean, he doesn't read, but maybe.
Yeah, it was Colonel Mustard with the with the emails.
Oh gosh.
Gosh, fucking
in the press room.
All there's like 6 advisors who are using private emails in the current administration.
Yeah, because everybody does
Yeah,
this.
this
But
is-
when she does it, it's the crime of the century.
Right.
Because people hate her.
Right.
Because people hate women.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is,
You
right?
know, the thing, though, is that she's paved a path. She's, like, carved a path, and once that path is carved, you can never, like, cover it up entirely.
Well,
President Khloe Kardashian.
I hope the first woman
God, no.
president.
The worst of all the Kardashians.
I just, none of them.
I hope the first woman president is elected in Hillary's lifetime, at least.
I hope so, too.
Kamala Harris.
I was just
2020.
thinking about her. I might have called her the other day and cried in her voicemail. So, I feel like she and I are BFFs.
Yeah. Kamala at me.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? The thing about Kamala Harris, and then we got to move on, is she is got a like don't fuck with me
I love it.
personality.
Yeah.
That
Men love that.
yeah.
You know what though? I'm telling you, like Hillary has done the hardest level of work, and now every time it's going to be incrementally better. And so whether that means Kamala Harris is able to like make it
And
happen
I
or not, or whoever,
do
Michelle, anyone, Michelle Obama.
I don't think she's
I don't
gonna.
think
I
she
know,
will
guys.
want
I
to.
just in my heart I like the idea of it, but I don't really want her to. I want her to have a nice life.
So I just came back from my first international flight,
Oh, tell me.
and other than the length and the free check bags and the complimentary meals,
Sounds hard.
It was just like every other flight
Okay.
that you take. Just fucking long. Mm-hmm. It was fine. Whatever. I got to London. I got back from London. It's annoying, but what are you gonna do? But you know what I didn't get on the flight? I didn't get an 11-hour interactive theatrical production. That's right. Icelandair recently debuted a new form of full immersion in-flight entertainment on a flight from London to New York. Pilots, cabin crew, and other airline employees posed as kooky characters in the airline's so-called Ahead in Time live performance alongside professional actors. To quote NBC News, passengers met and had the opportunity to interact with Maria, dressed in a stylish suit from the 1950s, who said she'd be flying the plane. Richie and Cynthia, hippies from the 1960s who met on the road and were hoping to get to Woodstock. Alex, an exuberant, if disorganized, backpacker from the 1990s, that classic era of the 1990s, in search of his passport. Oh, he's so befuddled, he lost his passport. And numerous grandchildren, and other far-flung relatives of Ida Johnson, a world traveler and former Icelandair flight attendant who invited everyone to show up to her birthday party, but spoiler alert, was too busy traveling the world to show up herself. And the worst of all, the flight also included a number of sing-alongs. The poor fucking people on this flight were forced to sing along with these kooky characters. Who asked for this? This is our fucking fucking nightmare. Who needs this? Nobody needs this. Nobody wants it. I have hated every person I've ever been on a plane with. I don't want to be with Richie and Cynthia as they tell me about their adventures at Woodstock and fucking free love. I don't need this shit. And that's why you, Icelandair, are this week's enemy of the podcast. Go fuck yourselves. What are you doing? This is criminal level shit. Did the pastors know what they were about to step into? They know this was going to happen? Like, when I'm on a flight, I just want to get drunk on little bottles of whiskey and watch old episodes of Numbers and How I Met Your Mother the way God intended. That's a fucking nightmare.
Oh, I would absolutely agree. I want our government to maybe pay attention and then instead of waterboarding people, just put them on the flight and then just torture them with live theater on the air. 30,000.
I'm not saying the 9/11 hijackers were right.
Oh God. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We didn't mean it. Yeah, but I think I heard about that and I was horrified.
Now, did they know they were
And
getting
I'm a theater
dinner?
person.
Yeah, did you know that you're getting dinner theater in the sky?
How do you opt out of that? Do you just put on your headphones and put a blanket over you and just
No, because I feel like you would try that and Alex would be poking around your butt looking for his passport.
It's like that thing in New York that's Sleep No More, but it's on a plane, where it's that interactive theater where you can't.
This interactive theater is.
Now, the part I left out of the quote here is that they actually made a stop in Reykjavik where new and kooky characters got on and off the plane. And there was
how?
Now, let me ask you this: as an actress,
okay.
Free flight to London.
Do you feel for these people? Are you like they needed a gig and they're like, well, I'm going to play Alex, the guy looking for his passport on Iceland. What? It's
how much money would it take for you to?
A lot
of money. Some people.
I feel like it's the cruise actors, actors who
But even on a cruise, you don't get this shit. You go to a controlled environment where you know that this is going to happen.
Here's my thing: did the audience see this? No, they're not an audience; they're just passengers. Did the passengers agree to this? Or was it thrust upon them? Because if it was thrust upon them and they're unknowing, these poor actors are in the they're in the shit. They're going to be doing interactive theater in front of a bunch of people who have no idea what's happening and don't want them to, which seems so painful.
And here's the other thing: I wouldn't want to go on these aren't the characters I'd want to deal with.
Right.
I wouldn't want to deal with people from different eras and
It makes me feel like I've died, and I'm
lost episode of Lost.
Yes, that feels too.
I would consider if it was maybe Murder Mystery Flight. That might make the time go by.
I saw that Jodie Foster movie.
Where like one of those terrible thrillers, and then I go around and well, this will kill 5 hours. I have to figure out who murdered the co-pilot.
I feel like there've got to be huge, what's the word I'm looking for? Insurance issues with pretending there's been a murder on a flight.
Now, just to be clear, an airplane in this day and age is really the environment where you want to be set on edge and made to feel deeply uncomfortable. There's people already on that plane that I'm sure don't like flying, are not happy to be on there, especially when you're flying to New York City, baiting that ideal. Also, I couldn't help but think of how many seats did they have to sacrifice to paying customers so they could staff it with, these C-level actors.
Now,
and why is the pilot involved in this?
Now, let me ask you this also.
Johan Johansson, the pilot for Icelandair, know that this was part of the job description?
Have you
I would love to be in that work meeting when they find out.
Have you ever gone to an interactive theater thing?
No. The closest is when we went to those comedy shows and the old comedian decided to rope me into his neurotic nightmare.
So you haven't done Sleep No More in New York?
No.
Have you?
No.
Okay.
I haven't even done a murder mystery dinner theater. I haven't even been to Medieval Times.
Medieval Times, dinner and tournament.
Yeah.
I've not done that. Maybe I should
we
have
should
to
go to Medieval Times.
I've done. It's
Take a lot of money to get me there.
It's a lot of fun, Medieval Times.
Is it?
Oh, it's
jousting.
All right.
It's cheesy fun. It's
All right.
I mean, you go in with
they have horses and they poke
and they
each other
joust and you eat,
and then the red knight fights the blue
you
knight.
You eat a whole chicken and with your hands
and then you cheer.
And you cheer.
All right,
and
I'm
drink
into that.
Pepsi.
Pepsi. I'm into that.
Yeah.
That's in Brea.
There's that show that I heard about here in LA. I say this with quotes.
Punked?
where you go on a date with the girl. Do you know about this?
Oh.
Do you know what this is?
I feel like
I think it's like all booked up now, but like you go on a date with like this wacky girl, and you go on a date with her, and what she does that night on the date is like this performance art thing.
I have heard of something like that. Like you go to a bar, and there's like other people in the bar who are part of the show, or something like that. But it was a long time ago I heard about this.
Can we just go to Earth Cafe and get an awkward cup of tea like normal?
Yeah, Earth Cafe is nice. I went there recently.
I mean, we're all having enough trouble getting regular dates. Right. I'm going to pay this girl to pretend to be some crazy date.
I mean, maybe she'll really fall in love with you.
Really?
I mean, here's the thing.
The same way the waitress is really into me.
You know what? But how many guys
do
think
it? Like,
are like,
I'm going to be the one.
Yeah.
I'm going to Chasing Amy this girl.
Oh, man.
Okay, we always like to end on a fun, weird note. And this is a story about a kid in northern England, since I was just in England, who was out celebrating his birthday. And, now they have those things at the different restaurants where you can, send out a tweet or send out a text like, hey, send me drinks, buy me things. You know this?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
You can say, I'm at so-and-so bar. You can put out your Twitter followers who wants to buy me a drink, and then boo shows up.
Yeah.
Nope.
You're not leveraging your brand well enough.
Nope, I'm not doing that.
Tables
Scary.
all have numbers. So, they were at the Banker's Draft Spoons in Sheffield. That doesn't even sound like a thing.
I took this from a British newspaper. I don't know.
They were at table 67, and they said, oh, send drinks to my friend. Well, of course, what the internet decided to do, instead of send booze to this young man, they would send him things like, glasses of milk.
Ew.
And fruit juice. And a plate of peas.
Oh.
Things like that.
Bottles of alcoholic-free beer, ice cream, crispy onions, and a pot of blue cheese sauce.
Wow. All right.
So this guy, so I guess that's the one flaw in this plan. You'll get shit sent to you you don't really want sent to you.
Well, it was his friend.
You're paying for.
It was his friend Nick's birthday, so that's why he put out the tweet. And he did cheekily document as each awful thing showed up. He kept tweeting out "Thanks, guys, the peas just got here." He took photos of everything, and so people could follow his culinary misadventure.
So
over
it
the course
turned
of
out to be
That's
a
pretty
fun
funny.
thing.
We should do this.
We should. People should. I mean, Sardo's used to have a thing where
I know
they were at the tables and you just said what table you were at, and maybe someone will send you a drink.
Wow.
I'm gonna tell you what. You'd get some drinks. You go out to some bar that does this. You'll have.
The problem is people then know where you are.
I don't want it. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want weirdos to show up and be like, "Hey,
what's up?
I'm gonna grab you when you come past this alley." I'm just,
No one's gonna mess with you. You're possessed by a demon.
Guys, it wasn't real. It wasn't real.
And on
There's
that
a priest here to come out, Father O'Malley.
On that note, Katie,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. You guys are so fun.
I'm glad you had a good time.
I did.
One more time, where can the people find you?
Check out my website, katiefeatherston.com, or find me on Twitter, which is at Katie Diane with 2 N's, or on Instagram, which is Real Katie Featherston.
Okay. Sean.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at, what the hell's my handle?
The Sean David.
That's the one.
Did you really forget?
I was thinking the real, no, that's you, because you also said real at the Sean David. So find me there. I occasionally tweet funny things.
You can follow me on Twitter at The Real Will Link. I have no upcoming shows. I thought I was going to have a show where I told a story about London, but apparently that show got canceled. So,
would you be able to tell a story about London if need be?
I'm working on some materials
Okay.
about that. I'm working on a whole bunch of new things. I just had a great show at the... you were there.
I was there.
At the Tell It.
Yeah, it was a good story. It was a good show.
So I'm working on some new material. I'm working on a new podcast, too.
Yeah,
which I need
let me
your
know how that
help
goes. Yeah.
with, on the technical level.
You and Stephen Brandon?
Yeah, and it's not me and Stephen Brandon. It's going to be me and Megan Salinas.
Yeah.
And we're working on a thing, so there'll be more about that soon. Next week on the show, we're joined by Andy Moon. Andy Moon, she is a cam girl. We have never had a cam girl on, although we've had other sex workers on in the past. So we're going to get this perspective.
Looking for alternative revenue sources for yourself?
Yeah, I'm gonna let her tell me how this is done, and then I'm gonna become a cam
Guy.
Man.
Cam man.
Cam
I'm
man.
gonna become cam man. People are gonna send me gifts, and
Plates of peas.
She's doing the exact opposite as you. She's going online and like send me things,
Right.
and they do.
Yeah. Well, maybe I've been misguided. Maybe I should reevaluate my goals here.
But she would go to the bar.
No, but we do have
maybe.
we have a lot of like real
Yeah,
questions.
we have.
It's just-
Yeah, we're making some jokes now, but it's her job, and I want to get to the bottom of what she's doing.
and how this all works.
Yes. And we're working on some other guests. We'll figure it out. We'll have a guest the week after that, I'm sure.
We can just take another month off.
Yeah, okay.
And on that note, Katie, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks. Y'all are awesome.
Yay! And for the Will Sean podcast, I'm Sean David,
I'm Will Link.
and we're finished.
We're finished.